computer.
Okay. Mataku yape, petu de chante wa ste na pe kazupido makakinchuga mataduto yate makiape, the Kodamagan amakiape. Hello, my relatives. I greet you today with good heart and a handshake. Let's call this into order.
Oh,
Oh, um, reports on general tribal business. Um, oh, one. Sorry, y'all. I am being called by Tracy right now. Give me 1 second. Oh, um, yes. Gotcha. Mm, Do you have Android or an iPhone? Okay, then I will do the email. I was just gonna see if I could text it to you because I'm on my Mac, but it won't work that way. Um, yes. Yeah. All right. You said it was TLYNN.HEINEN@gmail.com. All right, you should be just getting it, and we'll see you on the Zoom. Yep, you're good. Hook shot. Oh, dummy, y'all. Tracy will be joining us shortly. Let's hop back onto the agenda. General tribal business. Um,
Anything to report since last week?
yeah, not really. I'm trying to think. Not anything that we won't be talking about through the rest of this. So I, yeah, that's all I got. Vice Chair, do you have a report on the powwow?
Um, Not a whole lot, but I'm in reached out. I've gotten a couple people. Just heard from Cass today, so setting up. Gonna. I mean, I think at the end of the day, looking for some direction. About any parameters in the grant around that. To see what we need to do. Still kind of looking at it through that lens of a family reunion and kind of that perspective. But it did keep me up the other night because I realized I have like no connection. So I'm really counting on you all for your connections because I have none. I can plan a party, but I don't have any connections
Gotcha.
for the drumming and things like that. So that's causing me a little bit of anxiety. But I think my concern is we got to keep people's expectations down. I mean, at the end of the day, we
Yep.
got to meet a grant and we want to bring people together to, it's not going to look like it did last year. And I think that's going to upset people is what sensing or people aren't going to show up. I don't know. So, anyways, yeah,
I
not a whole
think
lot to
those that are
report, but in
supposed to be
process.
there will be there, right? And
Yeah.
that's all we can hope for.
Yeah,
Have you had any luck with getting people for the committee?
not a whole lot, no. And I'm trying to figure out. I just got an email from Ron and oh, that's not in big caps volunteer information. So there's that. Cass is willing to help me. My sibling and cousin, they just had kids, so I know I can count on them for some things, but I'm not going to be able to, So
Yep.
I know I have people that when it comes down to it, but for the planning, not a whole lot.
Lacey Lease as well hasn't reached out.
Lacey, no.
Okay, so all Dwayne's wife, Lacey Lease, she didn't want to take the lead, but she thinks she wants to be on it, and she has done some of this in past years.
Yeah, that'd be, yeah.
So that's probably somebody. I could send you their email, and you can reach out to them.
Okay. Yeah, and if there's anybody like that, I'm more than willing to reach out.
And as I understand it, Greg has contacts on like Drum. Right, Greg?
I have some contacts for Gary Charwood, who was our MC. He's in a Ojibwe up by Leech Lake. He's pretty good. He usually brings some wild rice down.
Mm-hmm.
Another one would be I do contact Jerry Dearly. He always loved my setup. He told me I should take it on the road, but I'm too old for that.
I was gonna say
Oh.
Jerry Dearly is also who I would call for contact, or who I have contact for emceeing.
Okay.
In terms
we,
of
I guess the space, is that something that, do I need to contact the church? Is that something that we just automatically have set up? Does anyone know about that?
we need to contact the church. We were in the midst of signing some kind of a 5-year agreement with them, and Steve Renville had been taking the lead on that. I don't know if was signed all the way through. So you would want to contact St. Peter's Church and let them know.
Is there someone specific that we work with, or if I just call the church office, they'll direct me?
They'll direct you.
Okay.
Okay.
To the father, I don't remember his name.
Yeah, it's changed a couple of times. Father Kevin or Father Steve?
There was two, and
Yeah.
one was the only one was the present one.
Yeah. But that should be fine. For vendors, I know, not for vendors, for food, I know that we wanted to move over to having possibly vendor rather than us preparing everything. So Dakota, you seem like the food person to start with, because just given your contacts,
Gotcha.
so you might be able to recommend some places Carol could contact.
Absolutely.
Connie Norden on fry bread, if we want to do a fry bread booth, because she has done that in past years.
Well, and I guess that's something eventually, how much of this is a fundraiser, or are we looking at this still as a fundraiser rather than?
It was never a fundraiser. We haven't raised any money off of this in years.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, from what I can see, so I guess I'm kind of looking at this in some ways like a family reunion, and there's various ways that we feed people at family reunions that don't include a vendor necessarily.
Yeah.
Could like, caterer or things like that. Do a fried bread. I guess I feel like there's ways to do that. I just wanted to I wanted to ask that specifically. So it's never really made any money as far as we're aware.
The last couple of years, we've kind of broken even by the time they're done. I mean, in part because we were paying every single volunteer. We were paying for a lot of people's hotel rooms. And so it's like you'd make a couple $1,000s off it, but then you were putting $30,000, $40,000 into it. And so to invest $30,000, $40,000 in grant money and make clear maybe $4,000 at the end of the day.
We only that would be about what it is, and then that goes in the bank account as a little feed cash for the next one.
Yes. So I think we can focus on this is a grant. We're not supposed to be making a huge amount of money off it because it's a grant.
Yes.
So some other things. So food, if we wanted to do other things we'd have, I don't know if we'd want to do vendors this year, if we're making this more of a family-based thing. There was something else that I was thinking of that just went straight out my head.
So when we say
Prob
family based, won't be open to the public.
yes. Um, we've talked to think about having like potentially maybe some dancing instruction or things like that, activities like that that would engage people with the culture a bit.
Hmm.
So again, like Dakota, maybe also talk to Jeff Isaacson. Those would be two good places to start.
Hmm.
To
Um,
interject quickly, it does need to be open to the public.
okay, it does. All
Yep.
right.
It doesn't necessarily have to change the nature of the event design, but
Mhm.
we would need to allow the public to access the event.
But I think it wouldn't be primarily like this was being run primarily for the public, if that makes sense, in the past years. Um, the needs of the community had completely fallen away. So yeah, okay. So it does have to. So we probably will, if we're going to have the public there, we probably will want some vendors if we think about it, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Mhm.
I know some. I know a lot of vendors. I know
Yeah,
a
and starting
Good
very
on
job.
large
Good
number
job, Dakota.
of
also make
vendors, actually.
yeah, and we have some people in the community as well that are
Hmm.
artists or otherwise would be selling things. It would make sense to be there. Um, so Jeff Martin comes to mind as one, but we can contact them as well. So I don't think we should have trouble necessarily finding vendors. It's just a matter of start making that list and then getting a committee together.
Yeah.
And maybe start calling
would
people that would like to should be on the committee or could do a good job.
And
Well,
I'm
and
not.
that's
I wanted to bring up something. I know I saw it in one of our emails down the chain about the Mexica dancers there at the powwow.
Hmm.
They are technically in between the powwows. You know,
Hmm.
we have your um, when you come in the afternoon entrance, and then the retreat, and then it's closed for about an hour or 2 hours, and then they come out and dance, and then we go back another entrance, and then a final retreat, on Saturday night.
So do you know anything about, do we pay the Mexica dancers? Like what's the deal there with
I have no idea on that. So,
so
it's
that
just kind of how do you call intermission entertainment, you know? So,
and I mean that's something I think, Carol, you guys as a committee can talk about. Do you want the Mexica dancers there? They've been there for some time
yeah.
as part of
I
the
went
event.
every year that I've been there. So,
Yeah.
and that's every year but 1 year. I had circumstance. I had to help my brother move that day. So,
Are we? I'll ask this question, and I think this is helpful. And I guess I'm trying to take names, but anything that you can email me. I have my spreadsheet started, so we're on our way. And having all this stuff in one place is going to make it easier to grow upon it in future years. But is there a time frame? There's the days, but for the grant, is there a time frame we just have to have it open to the public, or does it have to be run through a certain time? If we have any real
It has to
restriction?
be on those days, as I understand. Is that correct, Amanda?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly submit an amendment to the grant if we wanted to change the dates, but it was the second weekend of September is what was put into the grant application.
Yeah. I don't think that's the days itself, but does it have to be a certain amount of hours per day or anything along those lines?
No, that's not specified.
Okay.
I'm sure I could probably run through kind of the day of what we do, because I've done setup from like Wednesday on before. I've done, like I says, Friday we usually have just this fire lighting ceremony at roughly about 6 o'clock, somewhere around there. Saturday we have grand entry. It always says noon, but it's usually a little late. One, and it goes to I think 5, and then do the retreat for 2 hours, and then about 7 we do the next grand entry for 2 hours. About 9 o'clock the next retreat, but they kind of push it depending on how my lights are working.
Yeah.
Some nights the lights didn't work well, but now I got some new lights. So
When I have the program from the last, I mean, I've been to the powwow for the last 3, 4 years. So the days of, like, in general, and I guess,
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And
yeah, I mean, I have that more than the setup, like what
setup.
did
We
what days.
usually start
I'll probably reach that out to, yeah, I mean, if you're willing to just type out what you know and send it my way.
well, typing isn't my strong suit.
Okay, well, maybe we can set up a time where I can call and you can just.
I'm thinking about maybe coming down into town on Wednesday, because I want to try to find out about the hours of Apostolic Church there. I don't know if Danielle managed to stop there and check.
No, I didn't.
Okay. I want to kind of do that on the same day so I can kind of check that out at the same time. So, but if
Like
we can
next-
meet on this Wednesday, or that's tomorrow, ain't it?
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
Damn retired person.
I know you retired people are so much busier than I am even.
I can do it. I can do it next Wednesday or sometime later this week if you have time. So I can always drive down into town. So
So, I mean, the big change to me, like the big challenge, as I understand from past years, is making sure you've got people there for setup. And that's why she started like paying people right, left, and center, was to guarantee there'd be enough people there to do setup. Which happens.
it's a lot of hard work. So
And it happens, that starts a day to 2 days before the event. I think we'd be, in any case, whatever we do, I'd recommend we run the kitchen differently because a lot of the energy and headache goes into that kitchen. And there's other ways we could be handling that. And a lot of expense goes in as well when they're like all the money for the generators for the gas and stuff to keep them running.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Yeah,
you,
I'm really wanting to keep that very minimal, I guess.
Mhm.
Food trucks.
Food
Yeah.
trucks, catering. Yeah, I mean, I guess I really don't think we're going to be able to pull together what we've done in the past with that. With
granted, I will tell you, the stuff that we did make at the booth, most of that cash kind of went out to the singers, the drummers, and all the dancers. Now I don't want to say all, but so
but actually financially, Greg, when you look at it, no, it didn't because you had the money from the grant. The money from the grant, part of it went to buy the food, right? So it's actually, we're kind of
I have no
cycling this
idea.
grant
I
money
just know-
around the last couple
I
of
just
years.
know how when it comes time to pay them people, sometimes
Mhm.
they'll sit around because they're up there counting the money.
Well, and
So-
that's a place where we could do better, right? It's like, you're going to have to pay
Good
the
set.
dancers. You should have the cash on hand instead of running it like she was. Yeah.
I don't want to cut everyone off, but we can talk in circles about theories
Yeah.
when Amanda is here to tell us exactly how the grant is written to be budgeted
Mhm.
and give us more insights. So I think it would be a lot easier to have this conversation after that section. Does
Mhm.
everyone agree?
yeah,
Well,
and
we could also, this can
Yeah.
be, I mean, powwow really is a bunch of separate meetings, right?
Yeah.
This is more of a reporting in meeting, but like some of us can
Yes.
have this discussion later at a different meeting.
Absolutely. So I vote that we move forward. Let's hop to Tracy. Also, Padamia, Carol, for your report. I appreciate it.
yeah.
Tracy, do you have anything
Yes.
to report?
Not right now.
Yeah.
I would like to. You and I didn't get a chance to talk much because of the weekend, but I would like to get in and meet you sometime and meet the financial committee soon at the office if possible, and see what we're doing, see what we're going through. Where do you need me? What can I do to get the ball rolling on things?
Awesome.
So you just tell me, um, I'm open pretty much most of the time. I shouldn't even say
Yep,
that. My son is leaving for the military and graduating high school in 2 weeks. So I'm only dealing with that, but otherwise, like my day job, I can work from anywhere. I've got so much vacation time. So you just tell
gotcha,
me where you need me, when you need me, but I would really like to be able to meet the financial committee if they're local.
gotcha. We should set up a meeting then. For sure you need to meet Carol Craft.
Yeah. Is
Um,
she local?
Amanda, yeah, she is. She
Yeah.
lives
Okay.
literally a couple blocks away from the office.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
And then Amanda, who is in this call, is also on the finance committee.
Perfect.
Um, I believe Paul Leclerc is local-ish.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay,
Okay.
cool. And then Tim Johnson Sr. is down in Kentucky. So he will
Okay.
probably be the only one that like can't meet physically at the office,
Okay.
or at least
Yeah,
not
I would
in the
like,
short time.
yeah, I mean, we can always have him on video too.
Hmm.
But I would like to meet in the office just for the fact of, I know that Sharon was having her people do or start digitizing stuff. Where is it all digitized? Where is everything? All I see is boxes of paper. So
That's
I
part
Absolutely.
just
of
would really,
the grant report as well. We're going to need to talk about that.
yeah.
Awesome.
So, and I mean, I know my numbers. I know all of, I can handle this, but I don't know much about grants, and I really, really would like to learn where they're, how you're doing them, how they're coming about. I don't know a lot about grants. So, I like to talk about stuff like that too.
Perfect. Well, Tracy, my cousin Amanda, Tracy, our other cousin. Um,
Good to see.
So
y'all,
if any time next week works and maybe do you want me to just send out an email to the finance committee and see what
that
works
should
for
work.
them?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. We'll do
Awesome.
that.
Cool. That all you got
I
for the
did.
report?
Oh, sorry.
Ooh,
Sorry, really quick too.
yeah.
I did reply to Joe. I didn't reply to all. I said, thanks for reaching out. I was, my kindness.
Yep.
I just, thanks for reaching out. We will talk about it and get back to you sometime this week. So I did tell him that we'd get back to him sometime later this week.
Gotcha.
Come.
Then we will add that onto the checklist of things to do.
Perfect.
Um, if that is it, Wopita for sharing the report. The next one up is Danielle with an update on enrollment. Danielle, take it away.
So, contacted certain people that had not previously enrolled, some of them staying out specifically because of past leadership, some people who just kind of didn't get organized in time on the last enrollment drive. So we've gotten back, I think, 22 applications at this point.
Nice.
Awesome.
There are, I would say, at least another 10 to 15 people floating around out there that I haven't heard. I mean, I've talked with them. They said that they want to do it, but haven't gotten paperwork for them yet. We still have several days left, and I'm guessing I will have paperwork coming in. So that's all I have to report for that right now.
Awesome. Wopita, Danielle. Greg, you got any fun things to share with us?
No, well, Jeff shared, or was it Dakota that shared that stuff about the transmission lines?
Oh, yes.
Yes, I researched that a little bit. It would be technically out of our area, except for that it's pretty close to Rock Island, and we did have some major battles down there with the Fox and Sauk Indians. So,
Okay.
if they had some dead, they buried them probably on site. But I would probably let the Fox and Sauk take lead on that because it does run down right by an Indian Mound Park. So,
Yep,
um,
absolutely. Do you want to follow up about that with Jeff.
Yes, I will. So
Thank you.
I told him I was going to call him, but I haven't yet. So
Awesome. Well, whoopie to Greg. And let's turn it over to Amanda for a report on the current MMDTC grants and just kind of a breakdown of these things. Amanda?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks. All right, so with the current active grants, I emailed out that breakdown. That is a pretty straightforward breakdown of what's going on. I did have chance to reach out to Jackie and Valerie regarding the Minnesota Historical Society digitizing grant. There has not been much work done on that other than creating the archival categories. There's that one outstanding invoice for Valerie for $700. We have until July 1st to finish that grant. I did reach out to Melinda Hutchinson at Minnesota Historical Society to see if there an extension could be made to that grant. According to Valerie, Sharon had said there was an extension made to the grant. However, it was not actually ever submitted. It doesn't actually appear that it was initiated. So Sharon had told the team that existed, but it does not, which I confirmed with Melinda. We are not eligible for an extension of the grant, so we have a couple different options in terms of how we want to move forward with that. One would be to modify the scope of work, which then would be reviewed by Minnesota Historical Society and would likely result in returning a portion of the funds. The other would be to change the number of people working on the grant so we can get the work done. I do think it's feasible if we pay people, since the archival categories are established, to get a good chunk of that done in the month. The problem is Valerie Clark is not available to work in the month of June. So it would be about creating resources outside of the original plan to get that done. So that's the scope there. The Bigelow Fund has been distributed. It was not received electronically, so I'm assuming that a check is mailed to the office. I don't know if anybody's checked email, but that was sent out. MRAC grant, we still need the W-9. Paul Leclerc, I did fill up with Paul Leclerc. He indicated he does not have a W-9. You need to upload that and sign up on the grant services agreement. So that needs to be done before the grant is assured. So I'm not sure who I'm the point of contact is for that, but I will need that to upload that in the portal for the funds to get distributed. The other grant is going to be Old National Bank. That is for financial management training. It does not specify what kind of financial management training, so I did kind of do a discovery on how we can get in compliance with that. It allocates money for laptops and tablets for the office as well. There are different, like Cornell offers 4-week grants or nonprofit management.
Cousin, you're getting pretty choppy.
Is this any better? So I'm not sure how much you missed, but Cornell offers like an online financial management course for nonprofits, 4 weeks, all online, $2,600. We have an option to run a person or two through there. We could document, kind of standard practices, and I think we would meet the compliance threshold in doing something like that. We have till October to get that one finished up, so we have some time to think about that. And I'm sure maybe be the treasurer or somebody on the financial committee who would be best suited to go through some sort of coursework like that. But I think that's probably the most feasible option. Certainly up to the tribal council to decide how to move forward, but to meet the compliance for that grant specifically. I know the financial committee, the Santa Fe Tobacco grant was for the food shelf.
That grant is already done and closed. I'm assuming any final reporting requirements would have been handled by Joe. And I know the financial committee has some concerns about, lack of documentation that we have for that, but I just don't know if there's much that we can do in terms of getting that from Joe. I've engaged him on it. He's not been cooperative or forthcoming in terms of what kind of reporting took place and what kind of documentation existed to track how that grant was expended. So that's, I think, something that is just going to be potentially an exposure risk that hopefully, doesn't become problematic. But moving forward, obviously the recommendation would be that we have a centralized place where grant progress is documented, tracked, receipts are uploaded, and final reports are stored. It's not in control by one person. There's a general, grants@mendota.com email, and then maybe some sort of shared drive or workspace that everybody has. Well, not everybody, but more than one person has access to. So in the event that in the future any sort of transition happens like this, problem where it's one person in charge of storing all this documentation. And ideally, I think with the volume of grants that you have currently and wanting to continue to pursue grant funding, you guys are probably going to want to create a position for this. And that position should be, in these meetings routinely providing status updates, progress reports on different funding cycles and awards that are in place or being pursued. So again, you just don't run into this problem again.
So in concept, hiring a grant manager.
Yes. And I don't think it needs to be a full-time position, but certainly somebody on a part-time basis who is moving your grant applications forward and then also handling and managing the compliance and filing things and making sure that's all stored, in compliance with whatever internal policies MMDTC puts into place.
Awesome.
I haven't seen that list that Amanda referenced. Could I get mailed that?
I sent an email out. I'm not sure that I had everybody's contact on there, so I'm sorry if I missed you.
That's good.
Yeah. What's your email?
Does it say vice chair?
Vice chair. Okay. I can forward that on to you.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions?
Danielle?
Hey, so I have two questions. The first one is with the Old National Bank grant. I know it says like educational, is there any aspect of use in there as well? It seemed to me maybe there was at some time, or is it just anybody getting educated in finance regardless of their age?
It does not specify. It says that we're going to use it to get financial management training for ourselves and then create curriculum around that. But it does not get very specific. So I think that's to our benefit because there's some flexibility in terms of how we can apply what's written. And I think, somebody on council or even somebody from the financial committee taking nonprofit financial management courses, getting certified looks good. It's a great opportunity for somebody that's a part of the community and
I think she cut out.
Oh, sorry, I am in transit. So, but yeah, so I think it's a great opportunity for somebody in the committee to get a certificate. And that person would also be charged with creating, some sort of curriculum, which I think could translate even to developing policies, right, for the financial management of the community. But yeah, it's not very specific, which is to our benefit.
So would that be just one individual or could you do it as a group?
Well, you could do it as a group, but those certifications are about $2,600 a piece. Some
Okay.
there's comparable programs where it's a little more or a little less, but it's ballpark that. So we have to consider the budget, which is $15,000, and the fact that we need to still buy laptops and tablets
Right.
with that budget as well. But you could probably send one or two people, maybe two people through and still get that other equipment.
Yeah, that's what I
I
wanted
think
to
that would,
propose. And actually, if we sent, like, say, two people, but then we had those two people say, once they got their certifications, develop a course, right?
yes. Yep.
Where that could
That's
be directed,
exactly what I was
especially
thinking.
at our younger tribal members. And then we're having the computers and stuff coming in and being used as part of that course. I think that's the way that we could do it.
Yes. Yep.
Because right now I'm all
I
for like
agree.
getting skills sort of spread across the tribes. We don't get in a situation where we have that one magical person, who does
Yes.
that thing.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I agree to that too.
So my second question was, and I'm asking this because I actually did a lot of I did the writing of the narratives for some of these MRAC grants for the powwow. As I understood, at least when I was writing, the things like the money to hire the musicians, the prize money for the dancers was supposed to be included within that grant, within those grants, because like dancers and musicians sort of fall within the realm of art and culture. Is that the case?
Yes, that is allocated in there. I think that's part of the larger chunk of the budget for
Mhm.
9,800.
Okay. So that's just in response to Greg. It's like we wouldn't need to be selling the food in order to get the cash to pay the dancers and the
Yep,
drummers. It's like if we
that is
already
built
have that
in.
money, it can be withdrawn from the bank on the day of or before and on hand so that we can distribute that as needed to the dancers.
Yeah, that would be my expectation.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Actually, I have one more, and that would be going forward right now. I realize, right, we're just trying to dig our way out of the financial issues that we're in, but will we be pursuing grants going forward? When will we start doing that again? And who is going to be taking point on grant writing, or should we be trying to recruit someone to do that?
Yeah.
Amanda.
So I mean, that's I think more of a question for council or the financial committee. I am happy to step in with the grant writing as well on an interim basis, but I do think again that goes into that role of the grant manager, similar to what Joe had set up on sort of a part-time basis, somebody who's writing for the grants and then also making sure that compliance is achieved with the grants. They're not necessarily the lead charge for everything. There's committees in place, to facilitate the work, but there should be a point person, one, to move the funding forward and continue with the grant cycles, and then two, to make sure that final reporting and compliance is achieved.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, from my perspective, it's hard for me to feel confident in us asking for more money until we have some of these things cleaned up. But I say that without knowing. We have some history with some of these grants, maybe, but
But I'm asking though because there are windows, and it's like if we
Exactly.
miss those windows, then we are potentially setting ourselves up for a whole period down the road where we don't have any money.
I think you need to keep, my recommendation would be to keep applying, because like Daniel said, it's funding cycles. And so, if you wait, you're potentially putting a whole year gap into your funding. So things are going to get choppy. So I think it's better to continue moving forward, writing for the grants. I think that obviously there are some compliance concerns with some of this stuff, but it's nothing that isn't resolvable. It's just going to take some extra work, and we have the right people in place to create the visibility and do the reporting that's required to meet that.
So do we have a list of grants that we're already been interested in or looking at and what these cycles are? Is that something that we already have in place, or is that something that needs to be pulled together?
That's something that on a more permanent basis that needs to be pulled together. There's a couple, I sent out a brief email, which again, you probably were not included on. I don't think I was putting vice chair on those communications, so I'll forward that to you as well. But there were three specifically that I forwarded out with kind of or dates, application due dates that are drawing near. It can be sometimes a little difficult to perfectly sync up a cycle because a lot of times funders are changing things. The dates aren't always exactly the same. It really, some funding sources are very predictable. Minnesota State Arts Board is very predictable. They have a very, annualized schedule that doesn't vary very much. But, Good Relatives Collaborative and even Indian Collective, especially these kind of newer funding sources, there's been a lot of variation as they kind of establish their protocol, I suppose. So you can't necessarily perfectly pin down a cycle, but you can kind of get a framework. And then that's part of why it's important to have somebody who's really dedicated to this, because somebody's keeping their eye on the ball the whole time. And when those dates do get published, we're on it, we're prepared, we're ready. Sometimes there's a lot of supplemental documentation that needs to accompany the grant application. So it's not just about writing the narrative, but also getting those supplemental documents prepared for submission as well.
Well, it's also going forward. There's some things that we have been doing that, we'll probably continue to do. There's a small number of those, but then if we're also looking toward certain things that we're trying to do to say grow the organization, or things we probably should have been applying for and weren't, that's going to be a couple of years of building that up and based on figuring out what our needs are.
Yeah,
Because we haven't had a budget historically.
Yes, which is also something that's going to need to change because a lot of funders are requiring that now moving forward. I don't know if anybody followed kind of the Feeding America scandal that occurred and was tried, but that was a nonprofit that emerged during COVID. It had a lot of attention on it, and there has been a very noticeable tightening of the purse strings in response to that, and then also just in response to the changing political environment. There's a lot of different variables that impact, funding availability, funding sources, or even the application process. So. I shouldn't say, well, the tightening of the purse strings in tandem with kind of more rigid application requirements in terms of supplemental documentation and demonstrating budget management capability.
And I mean, something we're going to want to be doing going forward as a council, probably in collaboration with the financial committee, is establishing what the current operating budget for our community is.
Yeah.
Right. And
Absolutely.
from there, then talking about projecting where we see things in 5 years, in 10 years, and beginning to kind of create plans to get to those spaces. And there's a number of different things that we talked about today. We're bringing up the grant manager. We've talked about an office manager. We've talked about Dakota language courses, right?
Mhm.
All of these things have sort of trajectories along which they need to develop so that we can get to being able to fund them consistently. So Dakota, that
I
would
think
just be
that
a recommendation to you and Tracy at some point, maybe sit with the financial committee, figure out a time we can meet and talk with them on this.
Awesome.
yeah, I agree. There's a lot of cleanup, a lot of, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge of what is, I know what's happened. I know that, there's a lot of cleanup, but I think that, we have no proof of showing that we can manage anything right now.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm here for, is just to help clean it up and get it on the right track.
Well, I think
But I
my
need to,
concern, yeah, go on.
no, go ahead.
I was just saying, my concern is just, I think there's been a lot of focus on the cleanup, right? And it's not that the cleanup
Mhm.
is unimportant, but we can get sucked so far into the cleanup that we're not looking ahead to keeping the organization alive, right?
Mhm.
And so
And
it's
then we
kind of
won't
hard.
have a plan when we get there.
Yeah, and so it's been kind of hard juggling like the cleanup part of things with the what are we doing next year? What does the powwow look like next year in 2026, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what do Dakota language courses look like a year and a half, 2 years from now if we're trying to start that? Or as we're going to talk about FedRec, hopefully, like if we have to get money for a lawyer for FedRec, how do we do that? So I think it's going to be a kind of walking that tightrope right now for the next several months as we're trying to like clean up on the one hand, but also continue to be moving forward on the other.
Does anyone have anything else to add to the grants conversation?
I don't think so.
Awesome.
All right. Well, one thing,
Oh,
who is the point of contact for the W-9? I just want to make sure we're on top of that so we don't fumble the MREC grant.
I believe
I-
it should be me, but I don't have any. I mean, Dakota, do you or Danielle, do you guys have a W-9 for 25 for 25?
So Paul Leclerc, he was the one handling the tax stuff with Schwann, as I understand.
Perfect.
So
He
Amanda
does not have it.
he does not have the W-9.
No,
So
we have a
who would-
990 EZ.
Okay, so who would have the W-9? So is the W-9 something that would have been created earlier, like back last year or in January of this year? When would that have been generated?
Yeah,
We
there
do
should be
ours.
an-
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say we do ours for our financial company usually in February of the current year.
So, and Joe and Sharon never turned anything over, correct?
Correct.
nah.
Okay, so
Wasn't Schwann gonna do one of them this year, like the
so
10
Schwann did the 990
990?
and Schwann did not do a W-9 for us. Is that correct?
Can we
That's my
have them go
knowledge.
back and do one? If they're is there an accounting firm, Schwann, or what's
They were an
their?
accounting firm, yeah, that Sharon had been using. I mean, if we don't have a W-9 prepared, then we have to get a W-9 prepared.
Mhm.
Well, I was gonna say, while we've had this conversation, I just Googled it. How do I make a W-9 form? And it doesn't look that, I mean, like the steps to it are download one from the irs.gov, provide,
Mhm.
full legal name, business name, what your business structure is, what your exemption is, your mailing address, your account numbers, the social security or the employee identification number.
All right,
And
sounds
then,
like maybe you could handle it, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
it sounds like Tracy or Dakota should be able to handle it. I just think if it was
Mhm.
already done by Sharon, but it feels like if, a normal responsible company does it in February, my sense is that this may have
My
been
sense-
coming around right when all hell broke loose at the end of February, beginning of March, and it never got done. Would be my gut on what happened here. I don't know for sure,
Right.
but
Do we
let's go
have
ahead.
one from a previous year that we
Yeah.
could submit?
Okay, so
I would recommend asking that to the finance committee.
if they'll have it, if Sharon and Joe turned it over, they may never have turned
Yeah.
anything over. And if they didn't, we may just have to, probably we should just submit one to the IRS. I don't think there's any like downside to doing that at this point, because I'm guessing it may
No.
not have been done to begin with.
I was gonna say, when Tim found all those forms, did he find any of them?
No, we don't have it we have a repository and just like a Google Share Drive, and I did already check that, and it is not in there. So,
Is it in the documents that Carol got hold of? Because there were some financial documents from like 23, 24, 25 that were left at the office. Carol took them home.
I will reach out to Carol to confirm and see if she has that available. But yeah, and I agree with Danielle. I mean, no matter what, we're going to need that for funding sources moving forward. So we have to get the current year, but to meet the deadline for MRAC, I can also reach out to Masami at Metropolitan Regional Arts Council and see if there's any substitute documentation that we can provide or get an extension to that. But they will, we're going to need that to get the funds released.
By the way, has anyone contacted the IRS and found out if we submitted one this year?
That's what I was going to say is you can go straight to the IRS and see if they have a 2024 and you can get a copy of it. And I believe that you can actually just get a copy of it online.
You should be able to as the organization.
Sounds like it should be public information, so.
Well, not public, but it should be like, it's like you can get your tax return form from the IRS.
Yeah.
If you lost
Yeah.
it, you can order it. So we can certainly get last year's. For this new year, we're gonna have to probably file one because I don't think they've done one for 2025.
Hmm.
But for 2024, the IRS should have it if it was filed.
Dakota, we can talk about that with the finance committee too next week if I can get them all together
Awesome.
for a meeting.
Amanda, what kind of deadline are we looking at for this?
The 31st.
31st. Well, that's
Next week? This week?
Yes.
Wait.
yes.
Oh,
Someone like call or contact the IRS tomorrow and find this out?
why, Dakota, can you send me a copy of our what is it, EIN number, our federal
Business.
number,
Yeah,
our business number, and I will look into I'll look into the IRS website tomorrow and see if I can get a copy of the 2024
Mhm.
and see what I can do about what we need to do to file 2025.
gotcha.
And I'll work on that tomorrow.
All right. I can reach out to MREC too and see if there's anything we can do to extend that deadline. They obviously, through the portal transition, I did already reach out and speak with Masami at MREC to kind of explain what's going on, and she's been very helpful and understanding and negotiable. So I will make contact there to see if there's any cushion that we can get for that deadline, or if there's any substitute documents that they'd be willing to accept.
Thank you. That's appreciated.
Yeah, of course.
Oh.
All right. Sorry for the panic.
You're golden.
Probably should have started with that one.
I hear Greg. I'm like, oh. We'll get it done. We'll get it done.
Yeah. Figure it out.
I can believe they can do an extension. So if we can't get it done by then, so.
Yeah.
Let me see what I can do first tomorrow and see what the time frame is to get a 2025 before we tell anybody that we don't
Right.
have a 2025. I don't think that we should announce that quite yet to anybody. Let me just see, and I'll get back to everybody tomorrow, by the afternoon to see what the time frame of it's going to be. I mean, we don't know. Maybe they did file for 2025 in December or January, but I mean, it would be great if they did, and we just print a copy.
Mhm.
But before we ask for an extension or tell anybody that we don't have it, let's just do this in-house first and see.
Yeah.
Let me do some investigation first.
Gotcha.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Cool. Tracy, I sent you that number. Have it in your
Yep, I just got
text.
it.
Perfect.
Got it.
All right. Another time. Is there anything else within grants that we would like to discuss?
Yes. Regarding the archivists, while I was in Minnesota, I was over at the Traverse des Sioux Treaty Museum in St. Peter. Somebody was talking to that brought up, I forgot what the site is called, but where you can, there are a lot of people that are archivists or freelance and are looking for work. I will go back and get the exact name of that so that maybe we can, including people who are native archivists specifically. So I'll go back and ask for the contact on that so that we can maybe contact them and find some other people to replace Val if Val won't be able to work in June. Especially
Gotcha.
seeing that you've got it sounds like we have the categories and we can get started on working on that.
Good.
I want to
Perfect.
emphasize with that grant is the expectation was never that, I mean, except maybe from Sharon, possibly the expectation from the Historical Society was not that we would have everything archived by the end of the first grant.
No,
But we
it's not
do,
even expected to be digitized by the first grant, or it's just categories and then sorted.
yes. And regarding the digitization, it's on a drive somewhere that somebody has, either Sharon or one of the honorary members. even if we could get it, none of it is sorted. It is just, for the most part, random files thrown through a feeder scanner. So finding anything in there, good luck.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Love.
I'll find that. I'll contact the person I was talking to over at the museum, and I can send you that website.
Awesome. All right. If that is it with grants, I believe so. Say something now, otherwise we're jumping.
Let's jump.
Cool beans. All right, if that is it with grants, Amanda, I would like to say Padamia for your report. Yeah, you can hop off. I'm not trying to tell you to hop off, but like, please,
No, I gotta jump
please hop
anyways.
off. Yep.
All right.
Thanks,
Cool.
Amanda.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, thanks.
Whoopie-da. All right. Sweet. Let's get into old business. First item on the agenda is pricing on the ID card machine. I'm hoping Danielle.
So we can skip that because Brad hasn't got back to me yet. So,
Gotcha.
and again, that's totally on me because I was traveling and didn't get that email to him fast enough. We can pass over that.
More than fine. So second thing on old business is creating a resolution on the Dakota language courses for September 2025. Like to open this up for discussion before we put it up for any type of vote. I guess the floor is open. If anyone has any questions about it, please ask, and I will help fill in what I can.
So we already
Well,
have somebody identified and an amount identified,
Yes.
correct? I
Okay.
mean, it's just
yes.
So I can, because I've been talking about this with Joe Bendixson, so maybe I should take floor on this. So Joe Bendixson is a Dakota language teacher. He formerly taught at University of Minnesota, and he's also taught, for some of the different tribes as well. So he is willing to start teaching in September. And we would be running this essentially in the format of a university course that it would be offered. We're thinking of offering it to 20 people. 12 of those spots would be reserved for members of our community. The other 8 spots would be open to Dakota people in the broader area. And for this first semester, running this course is going to cost, his salary will be about $10,000 because that's about what the U of M would be paying him for that kind of a course. It'll be offered 4 days a week, 1 hour a day, over the course for 14 weeks, pretty much. So like a semester. So the plan is people that are signing up for this course would eventually be making a commitment to a 4-year-long training course. And it would be, that 14-week sessions of 4 hours a week. And by the end of the last of those sessions, at least some of the people would be at a level that they would be qualified to teach at least first year themselves. So that's the program. So it would cost us, we could hold it, we're going to hold it at the tribal office, but it's going to be done through Zoom. So I was hoping part of the old National Bank money, as we're getting money for teaching, could go into a setup for Zoom so that we could offer Zoom classes through a room in the office. And we could offer financial classes as well. So we can loop that in. So that would pay for the equipment. Then we'd have to come up with the $20,000 per year to pay Joe while he's teaching the courses. There's a possibility in 2 year, maybe when we have the first group starting their 3rd year, that we might try to add in a second cohort beginning at 1st year. But because we have some other people that can teach theoretically. But right
Hmm.
now, we're just starting with the one cohort to see how to test drive this and see how it goes.
Mhm.
So that's the Dakota language program. Um, we can't, because because of the amount of money that we'd be outlaying, we need to get this approved through general counsel.
Absolutely.
So this would be the resolution pretty much is asking for $10,000 to hire Joe Bendixson to teach the sport, the first 14 weeks of this course to 20 students.
Is that larger plan or vision written out somewhere?
Um, I can write it out. I keep meaning to write it out. I will get it written out.
I think that'd be just helpful to see the larger vision of it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
been
So
helpful.
the long-term vision of this is getting enough people who are Dakota conversant and have the correct training that we could run a language nest
Mhm.
in Dakota. And then the long-term plan, and I mean, this is, I want to say 10 years out, but I mean, this is out, will be eventually opening a Dakota medium charter school.
Mhm.
Oh,
But there's a number of things that have to go into that, obviously, in addition to the Dakota language. And that's something that Joe and I have talked about in terms of people that we already have within the community that have, say, teaching experience, early childhood care, and education degrees and things like that. And thinking strategically about some of the people that we really try to get into the first cohort. Those wouldn't take up all the seats, but having a couple of seats for those people, so that we could begin to develop that capacity. So that's the long vision. But the immediate vision is to start getting Dakota back actively spoken or
In the
by part of the
community.
community. Yeah. Um, so that we can get to a point where at least, you know, a significant number of our tribal members could introduce themselves in Dakota. That'd be really nice.
oh,
Um, so I'll get the full plan written up for that. But that's the longer vision. The immediate vision is just starting with the first semester.
But even those details about the 20 people, 8 open,
Mhm.
what the commitment of that first cohort is. I mean, there is some, yeah. I mean, even
And there's also, we're going to be doing things like language contracts and stuff like that. You're signing up for this course,
yeah,
you are committing to 4 years, and you're also committing to coming back and serving the community for a certain amount of time using that language training you have received. But I mean, a big piece of the puzzle that's been missing with language training in this community for a long time is getting somebody who is able to commit to actually teaching, a structured program over the long haul.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, but in the long term, yeah, I think we have one or two other people that could teach first year if we wanted to expand our capacity. But I talked with Joe, given kind of, especially if it's on Zoom, the number of people that he could realistically teach would be about 20 effectively.
Okay.
Do we have any other comments or questions?
The the grant that we have right now for the learning, and we were talking about the finance learning, and then we're talking about this. How much is that grant?
Give me 1 second and I can pull the
Is that where we're looking for that 10K to come from? Is one of those grants? Oh no. Okay.
I'm hoping that we have enough other free floating money in the accounts at this point
Okay.
that is not attached to specific grants that we could be able to fund this. There's a
Okay.
possibility, I've talked to Tracy, there's a possibility that some of this could come out of the MRAP grant because the powwow is sort of one element of the MRAP grant, but there also are like courses and educational stuff that's not the powwow.
Okay.
So part of this money for the first semester could come out of the powwow grant. Amanda and I have talked long term about getting money effectively to continue this. So another reason I'd like to have Jay start volunteering as well. I mean, we could get that $15,000, that could go a long way toward funding.
Right.
not only that, but the programming through Microsoft that we could get for free would also, instead of doing Zoom, we could do Google Teams or Google Meets or whatever. Like those are a bunch of options. Carol, I know you should just have this now, but I also forwarded you both of the grant things from Amanda. And if we're looking under grant opportunities, there's one that is written out. So it is the MN Arts Board, cultural expression, sports activities that share, explore, pass on, express, or celebrate culture through the arts. Culture may be defined as by a common ethnicity, tribal affiliation, geographic or regional identity, or language. Traditional and contemporary forms of cultural expression may be funded in this program. Funds could be used to support practice in the cultural art form, presenting cultural festivals, community celebrations, performances, media, or exhibitions, offering demonstrations, etc. Funds could be used to deepen or pass on cultural traditions through apprenticeship or documentations. I also talked to Amanda. There is a way to use that for language. I don't remember how she explained it, but she did step by step explain how you could use that for language, and that's a $35,000 grant, and that's just the ones that are open right now. That doesn't include ones that say open in October or I want to say it's October and March. Danielle, Greg, you guys work at colleges, grant
Oh,
stuff.
we're on a different schedule
Oh.
because it's
Oh, okay.
our research grants are different a little bit.
Yeah, I don't.
Gotcha.
So
All right.
the other thing we talked about Indian Collective going in under the self-determination category as a possibility
Yes.
as well. So there are things out there that we can reach toward.
Absolutely. So those are just concepts for funding, along with honestly us finding other ways to fund, because as a whole, as a tribe, we will need, continuous funds coming in so we can do programs like this for the community, right? That's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Did Tracy pull tabs?
Yeah, exactly.
Ever want to jump into pull tabs?
So I should have actually brought this up. I have been playing phone tag for an entire week with a person named Marianne down at the state of Minnesota gambling. I forgot what the word I'm looking for. Anyways, I want to see because I want to see what it would take for us to get back into getting our gambling license again. So she has called me. I've called her. We are literally on phone tag. So the last time I called her was this morning, probably about 9:00, and asked her if we could just set a time to meet, and I would call her. I didn't get a return phone call back yet today. So I'm hoping by tomorrow I will know, at least a time to meet with her and have my questions answered. But when I looked it up, it said something. Am I off of my video went out? When I looked it up online, if you get pulled out, it is a 10-year suspension is what it is. So you guys had told me that it's been over 10 years. So that's kind of what I went with on my messages to her. So I'm hoping that we could get that back. I think that the trial is finding places that we can put the pull tabs, because most bars and restaurants already have them. My whole thing is I had like a little slide in because Burnsville Hockey Association, there's a Burnsville Hockey Association and a Apple Valley Hockey Association. Well, Burnsville Hockey has been gone for 3 years now. So they combined with Apple Valley. So I would really like to see what I can do for having them combine their pull tabs also, or Burnsville Hockey needs just to go away. And they've got a lot of the market here in Burnsville. which would be nice. But it's really hard to get into places unless they're just opening. So, or unless they have a problem with their charity, and which most places don't have problems with their charity. They've been with their charities for so long. That's where we're going to get stuck, is trying to find a place to put them. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
I don't know anything much about pull tabs. 'Cause I don't really play them. I don't do scratch offs or nothing. But wasn't there used to be some places that had pull tabs and they could play them, but they would play them with your license for this night, somebody else with the license for the next night.
It's very rare to see that, because most places are dedicated to their charities. So when a place opens, I mean, I used to own 2 bars. My brother owns 3 of them. So when a place opens, every single charity is knocking on your door before your door is even open. They find out that you got a license through you got your liquor license, and they are knocking at your door. So everybody wants in because it's money. I know that Buck Hill in Burnsville, they do not have pull tabs right now, and I have a really, really good in with them. However, they weren't trained. They had them behind the bar. They weren't trained to do it, and there was missing money all the time. So, but they know that they have to pay for it. So they just said, we're not going to do it anymore. We'll just get rid of it. So that's the only place that I know for a fact that I could probably get in. But right, you just have to watch like the liquor license approvals and see who's opening a new place and just attack them. So it's a process. I'm trying to get it out there. But my whole thing is I'd like to see why Burnsville Hockey Association is where's that money going? Because it shouldn't even be a charity anymore, because Burnsville doesn't have any hockey whatsoever for the last 3 years. They eliminated all hockey.
I guess first step is to find out where we're at. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
and I can apply. I mean, I think it's only like a $30 application fee. So I can apply for it. I'll pay for it, and then I'll just get reimbursed. But I'll apply for the license. So, but we can have a license. We just don't have any place to put them yet.
Awesome. I would say look into that. If that sounds great with everyone, we will come back and discuss that. We're going to loop back around to Dakota language courses.
Sorry.
No, you're golden. You're great.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yeah. If everyone's cool with it, I'm going to make a motion to put forward that we bring a resolution to create and pay for the Dakota language course for September 2025. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Awesome. All for it. Oh.
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just pretty sure that was everyone, but I can't see all your guys' screen at one time.
Sorry.
All against. All right, the motion passes. So we will bring that to the next general council meeting for their vote. Another item on old business is resolution authorizing the purchase of an ID card. We
need to wait for that until we get
skip on that until we get the prices.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure we already voted that we will go forward to buying one
Once
and
we
bring
have
that to tribal council. We just need
Correct.
price points. All right, let's move into new business. So Jay is not in here, so we will just skip the Microsoft one and hopefully have that set up for the next tribal council meeting. So we will jump down to contacting an attorney to seek advice regarding the tribal whether the tribal council has the legal obligation to report to, say, the attorney's office, IRS, any of these governing entities that oversee nonprofits and money management within grants and those type of things. I'm going to put this on the table and put my opinion as I definitely think we should do this. because we're already going through an audit. It would be nice to know, one, to have legal representation of what we should do depending upon the audit. If we need to do anything, if we need to address anything, I think that would all be, pertinent. But it'd also be nice to like have a lawyer that we've worked with when it just comes to financials as a whole, in case we have questions going forward. That is
Is
my
that
opinion.
the link for Hogan Adams? Would they be able to do all of it, including the federal recognition, or were they?
Maybe.
It looks like in general terms, but I wasn't sure. Yeah.
I think they would be a great place to start because they cover governance, which would be handy going forward when we get a constitution committee, and figuring out how to have the correct language in our governing documents and having someone who holds a law degree to oversee that. They cover finance, which would be this. They do other stuff, but I don't have their webpage
You're
pulled
not
up.
Gavin.
Oh, taxation. They do gaming in case we wanted to get into gaming. They also do litigation
And they're out of Minnesota. They're out of St. Paul, it looked like.
yes, they are. And they are a company that a lot of the local nonprofits, indigenous nonprofits use.
I
But
think we need some legal representation personally after
yeah,
looking at that financial committee update a little more closely.
yes. So looping back to the concept, I think it is pertinent that we have, we seek uh, legal representation. But that is my opinion. Does anyone have any other comments, or are we ready to vote on this?
Well, my thing is, as a law firm, and they got all of these other services, right? We'll be looking at a retainer fee, or are we looking at specific pay for the hours that they work, and then get another job for them, pay them on another job? Don't know how all of this will work.
I think we would start with a consultation. We have a
Mhm.
Yeah.
very specific
Yes.
set of problems about which we need a consult, right? And if they then say from there, like, we don't handle this, then we know that. Or what they'd recommend going forward, then we can speak to that from there.
And we can vote on.
So I don't know that would, I mean, at that point, we might end up with a retainer if this ends up being a more involved problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where are we at with the audit? Is that did we? Yeah, is that something that we're still waiting to identify who's going to do that and what that will cost? Or we already had someone identified? Am I recalling that?
As I understand, we have two people or two firms that were identified. They were asked to bid on it and to sign NDAs, and then the financial will come back to us. Finance committee will come back to us with which of those two firms they're going to select. But as I understood, it was going to be within the coming weeks that should be starting.
Yes.
That's another
Yeah.
question that we can ask when we talk about it or next week too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you said, if at this point, it's just approving a consultation with this law firm, right? I mean, that's really what we're talking about, because anything beyond that, we have to bring back to discuss and vote.
Absolutely.
I think we need a conversation with someone legal.
I do as well.
I also do.
All right. If that is all the comments that we have, I'm going to put the motion forward that we contact a legal entity for consultation or advice regarding let's start with our finance.
Yeah.
Start there, and then we can start going after other things. But that will be the one that we
I
start
think
with.
that's what's most important right now.
I could quickly
Can I
add
get?
to that as
Oh,
well. I mean, we probably also need some advice on what we as a governing body can say and not say in
yes,
terms of
absolutely.
allegations or
Mhm.
evidence or anything else so that we don't get ourselves in trouble.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mum's the word.
So, all right. I'm going to put that forward. Do I have a second?
I'll
I second
second.
Awesome. All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. The passes unanimously. Um, the last one honestly could have been tacked on now that I'm reading it, but they are separate things.
Yeah.
But this one would be seeking legal counsel for our federal rec case. We
I
need to
can,
have a lawyer for that.
yeah.
Danielle, please
I'll
go for it.
clarify where this is different. I mean, what we talked about with the previous resolution was just a general legal advice person that's located in the state, because most of what we'll be dealing with will be things within the bounds of Minnesota. And, we're dealing with a particular set of issues now, but down the road, there might be others, right? So having somebody we can go to for that. This particular resolution on FedRec is much more specialized. At present, Brian, technically, we don't need to have a lawyer at this point in the game. We could make like Dakota the point of contact for the UFA. The thing is that, there's a lot of other things Dakota is doing, that all of us are doing, and also without offending anybody, none of us have a law degree. As we move forward, the federal rec process is going to be a legal process and a very specialized one. So we need at minimum somebody who is able to receive the responses from the OFA and draft our responses to their inquiries and demands. Maximum, we may, depending on where things go, I mean, we may need somebody that's able to sit down and strategize with us about, like, this is how we present this kind of evidence, or we need to prove this particular point in order to move this case forward. And that's where we really part ways from just getting a general all-purpose lawyer, is that it's to our advantage to have somebody who actually knows something about the FedRec process. And also somebody who, I realize it's expensive, but somebody who is taking our case. They're not working pro bono. We're not waiting 2 weeks for them to maybe get back to us, because we're going to have 60-day windows sometimes to respond to inquiries from the UFA. And if we burn 2 weeks of that just because our lawyer is sitting on it and he's busy and he can't be bothered, we're not going to ever get to FedRec. So that's why I put this one separately, because this would probably not be the law firm we would be hiring to ask financial liability questions to, right? It's a completely different animal. And I've spoken with Christine Grabowski, who is one person who has done federal rec law for many years. She's expensive. Last I spoke to her billable was $394 an hour. There are a handful of other lawyers that also do FedRec, and Dakota and I talked about this earlier today. I would recommend looking at who was working with Little Shell. I would recommend looking at who was working with the Virginia tribes back in the 2010s. But I would look toward people who have been successful in getting federal rec cases through, whether through the OFA or through Act of Congress. Because this is another place where a lawyer might come in as we're if we get denial, right? And we appeal and we get final denial. Then, moving into trying to work through Act of Congress, which would be our next. So that's where it's a very specific kind of work as opposed to the other kinds of legal work we'd have for the tribe.
Are we scheduled on the general council on June 15th for me to do that presentation with the PowerPoint?
I think you did it before. Are you going to do it again?
Well, no, I don't want to do it again if I don't have to, but
I think we're good. I mean, you did it already. We might like post it on the website. Might be a good place to put it
Yeah.
once we have the website fixed and running. But if you want to do it again,
I don't want to take up that much time. We got a lot of other business.
Mhm.
But yeah, I can send it out to you. So
Mhm.
It sounds like that might be something we really have to consider. I guess I'm wondering if there's an estimation of what we would need over a period of time. I mean, yeah, is this a year retainer? Is this a $400 an hour? How many hours are we estimating? And I understand we would need something more formal, but
I think at this point, the resolution
Lots.
we're asking for here would be, at the level of tribal council, would be to investigate this further. And to say, come up with a list of people that we might contact and that we might talk to and see what their terms are.
Yeah.
Now, there's good and
Yes.
bad on this, right? If you read like how much it costs to do a FedRec case, you'll see figures like $1 million.
Oh my.
That's if you're starting like from scratch.
yeah,
We're not starting from scratch, right? We already have a petition. There's already been a lot of research that's been done. We're not going to be asking these people to like start trying to figure out if we're a tribe.
you know,
So that's good. That's a
have
positive.
historians, anthropologists.
Because that lawyer, yeah, would often go on and have to hire a whole staff of people that are just like going to archives and trying to hunt down material and figure out how to craft a narrative. And a lot of that work has been done. And so you might have looking over the narrative, giving advice on how to tweak the narrative in places, but not having to do
Mhm.
all that discovery work and hire the staff for that. But you know, as far as how long could this go on, I anticipate that in the short term, there's not going to be a lot happening, just given the
Years.
current conditions in Washington and the fact that even under good conditions, it could be like 3 months to half a year before they even got back to you on your initial submissions.
well, I guess because of that and the cost, and I think we still look at what it could potentially do. I think we still look into it, but wondering if there's a benefit to us holding out instead of spending all this money now when there's like an absolute no. And I don't understand enough to know what the answer is to that. And honestly, I'm getting a little hangry. I haven't eaten yet. I went from therapy to here, so I'm losing it. I'm losing it here. But I guess that's one of my questions is like, do we throw, I mean, like, but I don't understand the time frame, but it's like, there's no way in hell that the Orange Man's going to do anything for us or the damn Congress. So those are the sort of questions that I would like to have not answered tonight, but at some point.
Regardless of whether we decide to submit today or we decide to submit in 3 years. And I would
We still need to do this research. We still need to do the research for sure.
Yes.
we need to figure out like who's out there, how much do they cost,
110%.
and how much would be, and the questions you ask is that like, would we just like be on your on a list, but we're not paying you until you actually get real work? Or would we be paying a certain amount just to keep you around until the work arrived?
Right. Yeah.
We need to
Yeah,
learn that.
I think we still
Totally
Yes.
agree.
Again, as Danielle said, I think it's about just making sure when we need legal counsel for FedRec, we are not doing this exact work that we are talking about doing
at
that point when we are already putting in the paperwork, but knowing that we have someone that we could call. This is how much they cost. This is something that we could create a budget for because we know all these ins and outs.
So
That when we do put in
petition past them already, and they're already up on it, you know.
absolutely yes.
Yeah. No, I think I totally. So I can make a resolution that we look into this. Is that where we're at?
Yes, it is. And
Yes.
yes, and I second it as well.
Okay.
So
All in favor?
Aye.
And
All
I think
opposed? Oh,
so. Go on.
for it, Danielle.
Finish the vote.
Oh. All opposed? It's unanimous. It passes.
So as far as the submission, I mean, I think we're submitting in July, right? I don't,
Yeah.
even if it just sits, at least we've submitted it and it's moving toward getting on active consideration.
Right.
I mean, we could say that
We
we've
get
submitted
that
it.
first TA letter, we can let it sit. So we
Okay,
don't have to reply to that.
we still, okay, so July, we're still definitely submitting though. Got it.
Yes. And it may be in the short term that Dakota, you or Greg, you will be the point of contact just in the immediate short term. I think we're pulling it out of Brian's hands at this point because Brian is
Yeah.
just, yes, I don't think he's quite up for it.
No longer benefits the tribe in the way that we needed him to benefit the tribe.
Maybe that's what he's putting.
Yeah,
Okay. I think that's the last thing on the,
it is.
Yes.
so
I don't want anyone to add anything, but does anyone have anything to add before we bounce?
Uh,
I got a couple things. I'm
Gotcha.
kidding.
Oh.
I'm kidding.
Carol's
Okay,
good.
I'm good. I'm good.
Danielle, you good?
like 10 more things. A motion to adjourn.
I second this motion to adjourn with the caveat that we all get to go eat good food.
Yeah, well, I'll eat something.
All right,
Take care.
everyone for it.
Hi.
Bye.
All right, everyone opposed. All right, and we are adjourned. Whoopie
Take
to
care.
everyone for showing up today. I appreciate you guys. And here's to, creating a really bright future for MMDTC.
oh.
Awesome.
Oh.
Thank you guys.
Take care, everybody. Bye.